that is not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange eons even death may die. Hello Tarot fans, and welcome to another edition of Blue Sicx Tarot. I'm your fantastic host Blue Sicx. Thank you very much for watching. That's right, today's Halloween. Happy Halloween and Samhain to you all. And now, as we've already done ghosts and we've done vampires already this month, so why not end on the Halloween night or day, depending on when you're watching this and what time this winds up being recorded. Why not celebrate with something even better? Nightmarish creatures from alternate dimensions or who exist outside of time and space beyond the comprehension of human beings. That's right, H.P. Lovecraft, famous for his really cool monsters and for his racism. But we're going to be focusing on the cool monsters part because we're going to be looking at the Necronomicon Tarot, as you saw by the intro, obviously. Now we're going to have a quick cut and actually take a look at this thing. Okay, so first off, as is our schedule, we tend to look at the box first. Now, the box itself looks quite nice, very visually appealing. With some of the logos on the side there. Nice bit of detail about the deck itself. And of course some of the cards that feature in it. And on the side there as well. But the issue with this, the box itself does look quite nice. However, the box inside is basically empty. Not the sort of style of box you would have with the Tarot of the Vampires. And then you might see a familiar name of Anne Stokes at the bottom there as the illustrator, which is always cool. I'm a fan of her artwork. But we're going to have a quick look at the measurements of the box. So you've got 5.5 inches, and you have by 8.5 inches. So as I said, if this is the sort of thing you'd like as part of your display, it's nice. But as you can tell, I've had this a couple of years, and it's quite a thin box. I should probably clarify. When the cards came inside, there was like divider cardboard rather than thick dividers in general, so it just comes out. So I didn't really keep it, so making this a nice display box but not necessarily particularly strong. But we'll have a quick look at the book that it comes with. So this one is in landscape and actually quite thin, so same dimensions as the box, but just on this landscape. So once again, it still shows off some of the really nice artwork in this, and once again, it's a nice bit of information in the back. So this in itself looks quite nice. The book itself, we have the people involved there, and click through. So it's called the Necronomicon, which is the book very well featured in H.P. Lovecraft. I mean, to be fair, if you are a fan of H.P. Lovecraft, you obviously are aware of this. If not, read some H.P. Lovecraft. And don't just go for Call of Cthulhu, because there's lots of other really cool stories. I'll tell you what, there is a YouTube series called Overly Sarcastic Productions, and a few years ago they did an episode on H.P. Lovecraft, so I'll leave a link to that in the description. Anyway, so you get a nice bit of details here, and then with the cards, you just have a black and white print and information about the said card. And once again, nothing particularly special about the book, but it does look quite nice, and it's like a standard book. There's nothing wrong with a bit of standard. So now we take a look at the cards themselves. Now, first off, a quick measurement that they are just short of 5 inches. So we're looking at about just short of 12 centimeters. And they are 3 inches across, so 7.5 centimetres. So first off, you can see a nice cool tentacle monster, or at least an octopus at least, on the back there, which is obviously everyone's favourite creature, Yog-Sothoth. It's obviously Cthulhu. Actually, one thing I find quite interesting, back when I used to play Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! My friend had this artwork as a background as for his card holder. So this is a relatively old piece of artwork in the, not in the grand scheme of things, but it's been used in like card protectors. So this artwork is kind of available. Anyway, the cards themselves are, once again, I always use the Scarabeo as a comparison. If you are used to using the Scarabeo cards, these are slightly thinner than the Scarabeo. However, they don't feel as thin as the Vampire Tarot from last week, from earlier in the week rather. Anyway, so now we're going to take a look at the 5 of the mages. So first we start with the Magician, which is Nyarlathotep. I'm going to struggle. I might struggle with some of these names. So Nyarlathotep is the Magician. So throughout this deck, all of the mages have names in relation to entities from H.P. Lovecraft and also their position in the tarot. So Nyarlathotep is the Magician, and it makes sense to me. I'm not going to try and explain who each of these characters are because we would be here a while. But yeah, Nyarlathotep, trickster, not really a god, etc. But he's quite a fascinating kind of character. Yeah, him kind of resurrecting the dead is pretty cool there. And little skeleton bloke. Well, yeah, this does feel very, well, mage-like, I guess. But next we have Dagon as the Hierophant. Now, in context, for those who do follow H.P. Lovecraft, I would imagine Cthulhu would be the Hierophant. However, Cthulhu in this deck is the devil, which I don't really see it as much as I do with the Hierophant, as him being the Hierophant. But yeah, Dagon, giant fish god. I think that's pretty cool. Nice little lighthouse in the background as well, and a lot of. Oh, there are actually like little fish. There are people in the water as well. Whether they're fish people, I don't know. Next we have the Lovers, which is the Deep One and Bride. And once again, if you are a Lovecraftian aficionado, you can kind of gather why I like this one. This is kind of where unfortunately, this is one of the stories in which H.P. Lovecraft's racism kind of seeps through, in the concept of interrace, different races of people getting married and having offspring. So it is a bit depressing, really. But I still think this is pretty cool because it's kind of like the opposites. People getting together who you wouldn't think would get together. That's my opinion. Now I've got one of my favourite creatures from H.P. Lovecraft, from Lovecraftian mythos, is Strength, which is represented by the Shoggoth. And Shoggoth is basically a blob creature designed for manual labour. And up there is a star-headed being who's in control of it. Yeah, I do like the Shoggoths as a concept. And I think it works in regard with Strength as well, because in the stories they are they are built for labour. They are not even indentured servitude. They're just genetically made so they can construct stuff. But I do like the Shoggoths. I do like how it looks in there. And the last card we are looking at is Judgment, which is the Garden of Eden. Now, in regards to Lovecraft, now whether this is representing a creature I'm unaware of, because I don't really know, but I do find this one quite interesting. So not only is it Adam and Eve in the garden, so you've still got, as you would have with the Lovers, with the 2 trees in the background, knowledge and the other one, brain can't work. Anyway, one thing is always quite interesting in the flow of H.P. Lovecraft stories is that where people have promised that things will be better and you'll see things in a different perspective. But for the concept of the human mind, it doesn't. It sounds bad to the human, but once you're there, you're fine with it. And so it's that weird contrast of these two people are not liking what's happening, but are they going to be convinced it's fine? You know, this is the promised land, but is it a land we actually want to go to in the end? It's a deep thinker. It's the one I like to think about. I'm going to move on to the minors. So these minors are very kind of bog standard. So these court cards are very standard, really, I guess. So Reslight starts off with the Ace of Chalices, and that's obviously blood. No doubt about that. That is blood, but it still looks pretty cool. There's not really a lot going on, but the detail of the chalice looks good, and the rose bleeding. Sounds like a metaphor, really. The bleeding of the rose. Now the wand, the Ace of Wands, I think looks pretty cool because it's got a pyramid, and there's a lot of pyramids throughout the wands suit. Yeah, I like the it capturing the light as a prism as well. As I said, there's not a lot going on, but the detail in itself does look quite nice. Next we have the Ace of Swords. Very more dramatic than some of the others. This bloke does not look happy at all. However, it does feel like it does have a very different sort of feel to it as a lot of some of the other swords do. And obviously look at the coins, which in this one is discs, with a cool little symbol. Some more Lovecraftian inspired people will probably understand the meaning of this symbol than myself. I've not read all of Lovecraft, only because I have to do it all via audiobook. So anyway, we're going to go take a look at some of the court cards. The court cards, you know I meant the rest of the minors. So now with the minors, now this was kind of tricky to decide because I wasn't sure whether to do my one card from each suit or pick one suit. Now the reason I would have only picked one suit is all of the suits past the ace have like a running narrative. So 2 to 10 of all three suits actually have a little story going on. So I wasn't sure whether to do a story or just one of each, but I decided to stick with one of each just because you still get a taste of each of the suits anyway. But it is an interesting thing. So it is kind of interesting as well, because not only that, if you do wind up reading with these with someone and you get a particular part of and you get one of the cards, you can kind of look back to they're here now. They have been at this point before, and they're going to be here if, and you can kind of remember the story and kind of use that as part of your reading, which is one of the few decks that I've noticed that I've come across that do that. If there are others out there, do let me know. I'd be very interested. So first of all, we're looking at the Seven of Cups. I chose the 7 because first of all we have Bast, the Egyptian goddess, who is also used in H.P. Lovecraft. In some of his stories. So in that it looks like milk. In some of the other cards, as you go further, you have white fluid and red fluid. But as I said, it does look quite nice as it works as a running narrative. But still, this looks like, rather than the idea of here are all your different options, it's more like saying here's the sort of things you've got going on in your head, but here's what you need to. Here is the cup that needs to be filled. This is what you need to be focusing on. So now we've got the Six of Swords. Now, as I said, I chose this one because also I want to kind of keep this. I don't want to have to put an age restriction on this, so I did pick ones that didn't depict violence. Now they're not particularly gory, but at the same time, it's probably not suitable. It's still probably not suitable for certain ages. So. So I've just picked some that aren't really violent. But yeah, so this is like an assassin being paid to do a job or a job he's already done. I've not really used this deck that often, so it's quite tricky to sell. But yeah, so I like the fact he's kind of got, because he's got his daggers, his curved dagger there, and his sword. I said there's not really a lot going on here, but as I said, if you look at this as a running narrative, then it looks really cool and well, it does look a bit more striking. So next we have the Three of Wands. Now, of course, this one does have a lot of deep. They are referred to as the deep ones. So there are a few deep ones in here. So it is the kind of the narrative here is basically people summoning deep ones for their power, and people are fighting back against it because they don't like the deep ones. And look, I mean, a lot of us have already seen that fish film with the merman, which is the name I now can't currently think of. But yeah, I really need to watch that film. But yeah, I like this because it's still kind of presenting, not really presenting an opportunity. It's like, okay, I've done this thing, now let's just see how this goes. In the same way where the person looks out into the sea and watch the boats drift away. This is where, okay, this thing's happening now. Let's hope everything I put to plan will work. Right, and now we look at the discs. So in this one we've got 5 discs. And what we have here is a depiction of some Anton LaVey looking bloke being shunned by the locals. It does make me think of Anton LaVey a bit, but anyway, moving on. Yeah, so in this narrative, he is a magician who's doing all these really cool arts, but obviously the other people don't like it. So this feels closer to a Lovecraftian story, but more than the knives, more than the sword suit. But it still is a very nice kind of deck. It's as I said, the suits are still quite interesting with this, and of course each of them have their own scent. So this one has a lot of green in it. The ones have a lot of red, etc. And last, we take a look at the courts. So we start off with the Knave of Swords. Now, I picked him because, yeah, okay, I picked them. I picked them because, because it still has that feeling of dreaming of bigger things. They're currently working with a goat, with a donkey, small donkey. But is this person? Are they stealing the donkey? Or are they trying to steal what's on the? Or they're trying to steal what's on the donkey, or this thing here? Are they an opportunist and they dream of bigger things? So I'm going to steal this now. Soon I'll be the best thief in the world. So at least a bit of ambition there. Kids today don't have enough ambition. Too busy trying to be YouTubers and TikTokers. So next we take a look at the Knight of Wands. Now I chose this one not only because he's got a chariot of 2 saber-toothed cats, which just looks fucking amazing, but also the fact that I just love the light rays coming out from the wand. I just think that looks really cool and really dramatic. So this is a person who, once they have a thing, they will go for it. They have their ambition and they will not be stopped, come heck or high water. Now we look at the Queen of Cups. And this one is very, like I said, with the cups there's a nice Egyptian sort of theme to them. And so we have the Queen here. As I said, the stuff looks like milk. It could be mother's milk, I think that's what it's called, which is from Shog-Niggurath, if I've got her name correctly, which is supposed to be like the mother of demons, essentially. So you drink her milk and you become a demon. So it might be that milk, not quite sure. If I've got the name wrong, I do apologise. Leave a note in the comments. Anyway, I mean, there's not really a lot going on with this one, but it's still kind of, this does still feel like a woman who is kind of making sure making sure she's focused. She doesn't necessarily feel like she's overwhelming with emotion, but more of uses emotion when needed. And last we take a look at the King of Discs, and who's this kind of Merlin mofo who is basically, as I said, he's kind of summoned a ghost. using his disc and crystal there, which looks really cool. And I said this king doesn't necessarily feel like the merchant type, so it doesn't have that classic sort of, it doesn't have the classic Rider-Waite feel to him, but he still looks pretty cool. He looks very confident, and you still kind of get that this is a man of strength and skill, but not necessarily physical power, which is cool. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Enjoy the rest of your Halloween. Stay safe. Put on a mask, I guess. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Happy Halloween, everyone, and happy Samhain.